Fourth clip, discovering diversity. In the last module, we examined the notion of discrimination, and we found that there are several views on what discrimination is and what its wrongfulness consists in, and that we disagree with one another, what the correct description is, and also disagree with one another whether it's always wrongful and why exactly. Suggested to examine discrimination on the basis of a case study, and that's what we have done in this module. We have more specifically looked at White Innocence, 2 chapters of that book written by the Dutch professor Gloria Wekker. And you have made an assignment on the basis of questions about that book and about the things she's claiming and arguing for in it. There are a wide array of different responses to the book and different answers to the questions. Some people were really annoyed by Wekker's book, angry even, and indignant about the way she spoke about the Dutch situation. Others were mainly angry about the things she described, so how the Dutch behave in certain situations, and about, for example, the Black Pete events. And some, not a lot, but some of you actually changed their minds, for example, about the Black Pete discussion on the basis of this reading. What might be of interest to you is to know that when I taught this course as an obligatory course in the 3rd year of the liberal arts and science education, actually most people were really indignant and angry about the tone of Wekker's book and about the way in which she discussed the issue. All these responses are very different. Although there are really different responses to the chapters that we have read, what's common to all of them is that there is anger. Anger either at the situation being described or at the tone and the way in which it is described, or a combination of both. Also anger about the way in which we discuss these issues. And this is why we have discussed another text which focuses on this anger, and it's the text of Amiya Srinivasan. Amiya Srinivasan is a professor of social and political theory in Oxford, and she did her studies at Yale in the United States. In this text that we've read, she discusses the aptness of anger, and she focuses on a specific issue, namely the fact that people who are the victim of structural injustice or oppression are done a further injustice, as she calls it, affective injustice. And what is it? Well, you don't have to repeat all the arguments again, but the injustice is that whereas their response to injustice and oppression, their angry response, is actually an apt, a correct, an adequate response, a response that is to be expected when you are a victim of such situations, it's often counterproductive. And these victims are often asked or counseled to not be angry or try and get rid of this anger because it doesn't help their situation. That is a common response to anger. And she points out that that is actually a further injustice, because now we're asking people who have a correct emotional response to a situation to manage that emotional response. Or live with the consequences that it is counterproductive, that it might be counterproductive. Of course, Srinivasan doesn't argue that it's always counterproductive, but that sometimes it is. So let me come to a conclusion and then this clip with some quick remarks on next module. I think Srinivasan's contribution is really valuable. The notion of an effective injustice that I think will be of use in later modules as well. For now, I want to also point out that it's striking to me that the anger that people respond with to in structural injustice is shared actually by the opponents opponents of changing certain widespread practices such as the Blackpete. So the discussion about racial discrimination and also about other forms of discrimination has really become very heated at the moment, at least in the Netherlands. And that's a phenomenon that I want to take a closer look at in the next module.